3 minutes of injury time, ref. Get lost, Andy. Rafinha's just let loose with another howitzer in injury time. I'm not having that. He's still got something in his legs.
Yeah, exactly. And they didn't even let it get to the full 3 minutes either.
I know. They're absolutely taking the piss, keeping us keen.
2 minutes 57.
Oh, my goodness. Well, in the Champions League first leg in the semi-final, Barcelona 3, Inter 3. I mean, I think from the first minute when the youngest Thuram turned one in, I thought this is going to be one of those silly matches in like 1 minute. And then Inter went 2-0 up. They scored they're obviously scoring very quickly at the start. But then Barcelona came right back into it. An incredible first half performance, centering round one particular youngster. Inter went ahead 3-2 on another set piece. Denzel Dumfries knocking them in for fun. But then Barcelona responded 2 minutes later with an absolute peach from Rafinha. The official history books, as discussed, will say Jan Sommer on goal. Obviously, Luke's favourite man. But Rafinha very much doing the doggies on that one. It was an astonishing football match, Andy Brassel.
It was Pete Donaldson. And I think the thing is, particularly when you contrast it with Arsenal PSG last night, and I think you have to compare the two, is that I guess Arsenal PSG is more what you would expect out of a Champions League semi-final. I mean,
certainly the defending was.
yeah. I mean, I think because there was so much of a sense hanging over that game that me and Jim were at last night, that how much it meant all the time, and that players individually and collectively were scared to make mistakes. Whereas there are two types of people in life. There are those people who are quiet and they're worried about saying the wrong thing. And there are those people who are, like my late father, terrified of 3 seconds of silence.
Right, okay.
And if yesterday was the former, tonight was the latter. It's like, we've got to do something. The world's going to end one day. Come on.
It's an Andy's dad of a semi-final. We'll all be saying it. It'll be on all the back pages. But I mean, it was just... Inter seemed to defend in such numbers. You almost thought that Barcelona were never going to find a way through.
And then Lamine Yamal.
Yes.
I mean, to me, it's quite funny that the commentary team, and not knocking them, but they spent a lot of time talking about him as if they'd never seen him play before. When he is a European Championship winner. Yeah. But on the other hand, I think you've got to be reasonable and say, The thing about Lamine Yamal, even though he's played an extraordinary amount of football at his age, he still finds a way to astonish. Yeah. Like all the time, like every time you see him. And it's the comparisons with Messi are kind of nonsense. I mean, obviously he's come through the Barcelona Academy and he's very precocious, but I think that they're so different in so many ways, despite the left foot jinkiness and all the rest of it. But I mean, I said this on the continent, like about a month and a half back, I think.
Yeah.
Like anyone who sees Lamine Yamal on a regular basis knows that the comparison is ridiculous. And one of the reasons it is ridiculous is Lamine Yamal is so much better than Messi was at the same age. So much better. Like, well, he
certainly won more, surely, as well. He's won the Super Cup, he's won the Euros. Like, he's doing it at the highest level. And
they can't do without him. Barcelona cannot do without him. It's tempting to say, what will he be like when he's 25? What will he be like when he's 30?
He's only playing like 30-year-olds, like you said on that show about 4 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to think he'll have achieved everything already by the time he's like 25, 26, because he's just so irresistible in so many ways. And as again I've said before, the most impressive thing about him is not that he can like be electric and dribble around players and like score goals like the first one. It's the quality of pass. It's just unreal. Only a 30-year-old should be able to do that, really. Like, someone of his age should not be able to do that. Should not have such maturity and judgment. And I think the fact that it's all combied in the same player is amazing. I mean, it's funny. I think what changed in the game, actually, is certainly in the last 20 minutes. I thought Inter really got a grip on it then in the last 20, 25 minutes. because the 3-3 goal goes in and you're like, okay, Barcelona are going to get their inevitable winner at some point. But, it wasn't a case with Inter that they stuck everyone behind the ball. I think they managed to counter more intelligently.
Yeah.
I think that they played Yamal better because they brought on Carlos Augusto, who is like a defender for Federico Di Marco, who is a very fine wing back, but is not really.
I could see it on his face when he came off. He was kind of like, I've been absolutely done here.
Yeah, totally. But it's unfair. It was like, taking a pencil to a gunfight, really, wasn't it? It was one of those sort of things, really. And he did just about as well as he could have, even though he found it really, really difficult. But what I found amazing is the way that Barcelona played after going 2-0 down early on, and after the fact that, they played 120 minutes at unbelievably high intensity in the Copa del Rey final at the weekend. And so for them to come and pull a performance out of the bag like that, look, no wonder they dropped off a little bit in the last 20, I would say. It's not only into getting to the pitch of it. I think it's the fact that, maybe Barcelona just didn't have that little bit extra in their legs, even though Hansi Flick tried to change it up a bit as well.
Yeah, there were a lot of subs being made later on. But I mean, you said in that same on the continent about 4 months ago that Barcelona's growing pains aren't quite over. Was this kind of their domestic season in microcosm, the way they've sort of played it?
Sort of. I mean, I know about you, PT, but I just think the question to me is how much this particular team will grow, not the individual players. I mean, I think Lamine Yamal, and whatever happens to Barcelona next, and there will be some things that happen to them rather than they make happen. I mean, I think we've seen that over the last little while, haven't we? But whatever happens, Yamal and Pedri and Gavi and Kubarsi and all of these players, Fermin, who's like an unbelievable sub to be able to bring on, by the way, and he's already had some unbelievable games in this season and this season's Champions League. They will all be fine and they will all go on to absolutely flourish. But this team, I don't know, it feels to me like it should be enjoyed to the maximum now, because the way that Hansi Flick runs things, it's so intense and it's so casual and it's so, they play such careless football. And that's why they're so lovable, of course. But how long that's sustainable for, and not only looking at the financial side of it, but sportingly, how long is that sustainable for? Because ultimately, football, especially when you're when you're an elite club, is a results-based business. So at some point, the results will turn, and it'll be hard to justify playing like that. I don't want to get into Ange Postecoglou and Spurs just yet, but when the results are going well, people say that if you're a Mourinho and the results go out the window, what have you got? What are you left with? You're just left with boring football. But I think that's equally applicable to teams that play not only with the handbrake off, but cut break lines, which is what Barcelona do and what Bayern Munich did under Hansi Flick as well. Because ultimately, it's like Postecoglou's finding at Spurs at the moment. Once the results go out the window, people do turn around and go, well, why can't you be more practical? Why can't you just play to win, particularly in knockout football?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Hansi Flick, how he's sort of dealt with players. He's told Robert Lewandowski to give more. Now that is that's big a balls. Man who's not big balls, and so you imagine that you look at the chaos of this game and the mania. He's not going to be very satisfied with how this all panned out. And at the end of the match, I think you remarked he did look rather perturbed, rather confused about what exactly had gone on. Yeah,
I mean, I guess because if your team plays that well and you don't win, it takes a bit of a while to work out how it actually happened, I suppose. But look, I love Hansi Flick. I love watching his teams. I love the way that he kind of looks like a hitman that's come out of retirement. And I guess the thing is about him, because he's got just this such business-like look about him, and then his team's such fun. It's such an incredible contrast. He sort of famously turned up in Barcelona dressed in that black bomber jacket and jeans with a little sort of, 40-something man going on EasyJet to Bratislava for the weekend holdall. And, you think that in there, because he's got that retired hitman vibe, that he's got like a Glock and like a long range rifle, but actually it's like, juggling balls and
Inzaghi could have kept a few juggling balls and probably a disassembled Kalashnikov in his big cut. 17 degrees in Barcelona, and he pointed out, and he's still wearing a coat at the final whistle. Terrible stuff.
Liam Gallagher at Glastonbury in 1995. You having it?
It's just sweating from the inside, sweating from the bones, Andy.
I was at that, and it was absolutely roasting.
Terrible.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah,
it was a hell of a backheel flick, wasn't it? To score the fastest goal in the last 4 games in the competition's history. Incredible stuff.
It's brilliant, and like the main thing for Inter, and they've had a few injuries recently to key players. The fact they've managed to bring Dumfries back in, bring DiMarco back in, and bring Thuram back in, who was a real doubt for this game, and I suspect wasn't entirely fit, but they had a bit of a Hail Mary because he's so important to them, and he's just irreplaceable, really. And obviously, it turned out they needed him even more with what happened to Lautaro as well, which is something that could have an influence on this tie, because it's not looking particularly rosy for him to play the second leg the way that he pulled up. I think it's huge. And of course, we got to see Lillian in the crowd as well, which was quite nice.
Lovely stuff.
Always nice. One of my favourite OTC meets subjects.
Okay, right, yeah. His dad, yeah?
He was great. Yeah, Lillian. He was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. But it's interesting because, so much is made and so much has been made in Italy of how when Marcus scored against Parma, he was scoring against his hometown club because, of course, he was born in Parma when his dad was playing there. But he sort of he grew up like for quite a bit of his young life in Barcelona as well. So Barcelona's kind of his place. He's never played in Spanish football. He was never a pro in Spain, but still there was a little bit of like homecoming element for him as well.
Yeah, the fullback Dumfries doubled the visitors' lead. Great overhead kick, instinctual, kind of 20 minutes into the match, and it really did look like Barcelona had a lot to think about and a lot to do. But Lamine Yamal, as we said, he just started as he's been all season, just transforming games like a wonderful sort of drift inside past 2 or 3 defenders, and then just a left foot finish. Just it's the touch off the post for me that really, really does it for the goal.
It's a satisfying ping, isn't it?
Massively. I want everyone in that moment to just stop talking, stop making noise. You're not even allowed to shift in your seat. I just want to hear as it sort of comes in off the post. I'm getting emotional about it. It's so beautiful.
You do realise that the best goal noise ever was when Erling Haaland scored for Dortmund against PSG.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember that one. It reminded me a little bit. It like sounded like a franking machine or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like a proper a rattle. Like only a Scandinavian could do it.
Can do a rattle like that. Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing. Actually, I wanted to ask you. From a Premier League perspective, Pete, about Denzel Dumfries. Now, unbelievable performance with him.
We've already got a few right backs, mate. Don't worry about it. We can't have him. We can't. We are just absolutely. We've got him coming out of our ears. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you. Presuming Liverpool are going to have to buy another right back, and he is obviously the more wing backy end of the right backs. I sort of put in people's heads a couple of months ago, what do you reckon if Liverpool would go for Dumfries to replace Trent Alexander-Arnold? I know they're not exactly the same sort of player, but I think if you've got like a defender in Conor Bradley and, you're not, he can play, but he doesn't have to play all the time, they're definitely going to go and get another right back anyway. It was interesting seeing him pitch side at the end. We were talking about how perplexed Hansi Flick was looking. I thought Dumfries was looking a bit perplexed when he was given his little man of the match. That little tin Champions League ball. that
Oh,
they,
right, yes,
that
yeah,
they
nice,
give to
yeah,
them
cool.
afterwards. And basically they come on, they take a photo of them, and then they make them take a photo of themselves with the phone, sort of like Mo Salah on
Oh, yes,
Sunday.
yeah, with the sponsor's phone.
Yeah, that's the one. Well, hopefully not the cameraman's phone. It's not for his own personal cellar.
No,
that would be really unprofessional. But it definitely happens at times in football, I think. But yeah, he looked really like, what is going on? Like, is it over? Did I come off? Did I get substituted before the end? I can't remember any of what just happened there. That was mad.
It was.
But,
I am knackered because we certainly just broke quite a lot. That's kind of, we broke so hard we might have broken football. I mean, it was, like the first card of the evening came at 59 minutes. I almost forgot about the old disciplinaries, and then Mkhitaryan was called offside by a shoe, and I was like, I forgot about the whole kind of like rules and regs of football because I was just enjoying it so much. Dumfries almost got the ball in late on as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing. I suppose, like, if you were picking a opponent for Barcelona, like Inter's not a bad matchup for them actually, because like I know like Inter are obviously very good. I think they've got every chance of going on and winning the competition still. And like many of us have thought that for a while, going back earlier in the season and even into last season. But that they are quite an old team, and that they can't like flame you on the break. They haven't got a load of speed demons. So I think that was the interesting thing when they when they took off Çalhanoğlu and put on Fratesi. Fratesi, who doesn't play as much football as he should because he's a very good player and he's weighs in with some important goals for Italy as well. But I think that's kind of the point. They felt if there was a chance for someone to like run from midfield and take it, Çalhanoğlu can't do that anymore, and he's positioned too deep to do that. Whereas Fratesi is definitely someone who could nick you one of those goals. But you know, Inter are really good at rolling with the punches. Really, really good at rolling with the punches. And you know, I think that's so important in a game like this. I think if you look at that performance, that game, if you're Inzaghi, you're super happy with it because you know that 99 out of 100 teams get knocked over 5-0 or 5-1 by Barcelona tonight. You know, you get the opening goal and they think, right, we're not having that, and absolutely unload on you. And they resisted that. I mean, it's a weird thing, isn't it, Pete, to get to a game where you were 2-0 up in the first 20 minutes and think, yeah, draw's a good one.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, like, Inter's Lautaro Martinez had to come off at half time after pulling up, and he looked really, really upset about it. There was a couple of players coming off and either looked like they'd been put through the ringer, or they were very clear that perhaps their semi-final journey had come to an end because they probably won't play the second leg. But yeah, he looked visibly upset about the whole situation, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it turns out that you can't like play 78 games in a season and just go into the next season and be fine. Who knew, right?
No, who knew?
Who knew?
I mean, we'll come on to the second leg, I'm sure, in time on OTC and other shows. But the tie is in the balance. Do you sort of think that Inter will be thinking Barcelona might have too much for us here, or do you just think it's so in the balance at 3-3? It's so finely poised. Inter are a more physical and tall team. Let's make it very clear. That was a big part of it today. Do you feel that Inter have kind of got enough to get over the line as favourites? Probably.
I wouldn't call them favourites. I think it's very, very even. But you know, Inter are experienced. They're a really good team. They've got a good squad. They've been the best team in Italy for a long time. If they've lost Lautaro, I think that's huge. I think that's absolutely huge because, you know, he'd broken the record for the Inter record for scoring in the most consecutive Champions League games. I think it was 6 before tonight. He's someone who shows up at the big moments. It doesn't need for them to have loads of the ball, and they don't need to have loads of the ball to win the game. But if you're like subbing him with Taremi or an Arnautovic, who are decent players, it's just not the same level, really. And I think Arsenal showed last night how stymied you can be by that lack of options in a big knockout tie like this. So, look, the big question over Inter all season has not been how good they are. It's been, can they show up for the really big games? Because they've failed to beat like quite a lot of decent opposition domestically as well. So if you go back and, you know, you look at the fact that They didn't beat Napoli twice. And then they didn't beat Milan in 5 attempts this season.
Yeah.
And, they didn't play terribly in all of those games, but I have a little doubt over their ability to close out against really top opposition. And they haven't done anything to rebuff that. They lost against Leverkusen in the group stage as well. I mean, like say, Arsenal is possibly the closest they've come in the group stage to beating a really, really top team. So, I mean, they sort of... They didn't dominate the tie against Bayern in the quarterfinal like I thought they might, and so that is still a question mark over them. And they've got to prove they can really do that.
Yeah, speaking of other players who went off potentially injured, Just Koundé obviously went off in the 41st minute of the semi-final against Inter, and he basically felt a twinge in his calf, and he just sat down and went, nope, I want to play in the second leg. This is too much fun. But he's reportedly been benched a few times this season for being late. The problem got so bad that he's asked for some of the security staff to remind him when Hansi Flick's pre-match talk begins so he doesn't forget about it. Forgetting about a pre-match talk. I mean, that is... Knowing, like, Hansi Flick's not scared of players, that's not the thing to do, is it, really?
No, well, I guess the thing is with Koundé, he's a doer rather than a listener.
Right.
Hansi Flick recently said about him, he needs, like, the staff around the team to keep an extra close eye on him. Because if he's like, he says, if you leave players alone, they'll, like... go to their rooms and cut each other's hair, or like play FIFA or EAFC or whatever. He says you leave Jules Koundé alone for like half an hour and he'll go for a run and he'll be like, wait, what are you fucking doing? like seriously, we're playing 62 matches a season. Is that not enough for you?
Putting his leg in a rack. It's damaging him. It's flagellation, Andy. That's what it is.
But I find that quite amusing. I mean, Lars was telling me about this Norwegian Kosovan guy, Valon Berisha. Kosovan family, grew up in Norway, switched between international teams when Kosovo were recognised by UEFA and FIFA. And he said, like, after games, he was so, like, sort of buzzing and full of energy. He'd come off the pitch and get onto a running machine.
Just absolutely pumped, isn't it?
Amazing.
Get that stuff.
The cross train is probably a level too far, but running machine.
I think with wasn't there a Fulham player who used to do laps when he was just too excited? I can't remember. Marcus would probably be able to tell us, but there was definitely a Fulham player that used to do a few laps after every match, and everyone just thought he was showing because he'd do it after like a loss, and people would be like, "Fuck."
Was that John Pansel?
I think it was John Pansel. I think it was John Pansel, Andy. He used to do laps, wasn't he?
There's a strong energy of, like, coming home from the centre of town on a Friday night and lads doing like chin ups on the bus or press ups.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I think we speak for the whole of football when we say cannot wait for the next leg of this particular fixture. I mean, wow. Andy, are you going to be investing in UEFA Champions League official UEFA Unity coins?
Well,
you're always talking about how much money you got. You said you're bored of it.
If you open your digital birthday card, there might be a surprise in there for you.
Lovely.
Happy birthday to you.
An NFT. Yes, the UEFA Champions League official Instagram account was hacked yesterday. There was a post advertising UEFA's Unity coin, which isn't real, and it was quickly deleted. I mean, it is real in the sense that all NFTs and Bitcoin thievery is real. So I mean, I guess it existed for a short period of time. I wonder if anybody indulged in the UEFA Unity coin. Do you remember we used to have hackers that were worth a damn? I remember I used to work for the local government, and I used to run a government housing organisation website. Basically, that was my whole job.
Okay,
sorting that out. And once I came to work, and someone had hacked it and posted a picture of a burnt Iraqi and
wow.
Basically an anti Tony Blair war criminal, diatribe.
Okay,
and that was above my pay grade, Andy. But at least it was satirical. At least it was political. At least it was motivated by something other than money and commerce. It was probably the right thing to do at the time. But I mean, just can you imagine sort of logging into Instagram and going, oh, I can't get in. They've locked me out, and they're advertising UEFA Unity coins because this sounds like something we do.
This to me seems like you want to return your birthday present from me, whereas normally I'd have kept the receipts. If you've read the small print, the digital small print, you'll know that it's unrefundable,
it's
non-returnable.
Yeah,
you make
non-fungible. Yeah,
you're subject to losses as well as profits.
And he's become a forex trader. It's very upsetting. Andy disrespect the Spanish king. Try to high five him or something. I'll tell you what.
Is that like when? So we're talking about Lamine Yamal dapping up the king after the
dapping up the king
final.
Yeah,
I mean that's really good. This is like. Do you remember when Paul Keating, who was the Prime Minister of Australia, he put his arm around the Queen?
Yeah. At least they're involved with us.
Yeah.
At least he should be allowed to. I think every
his Queen as well.
Monarch. Yeah. Every leader of whatever country, like Australia, Bermuda. I'm trying to think of other places. Canada. They're allowed to hug the monarch, and that's absolutely fine.
Well, that's the thing, because it was such a break with protocol. It just became, I remember at the time, it became way apocryphal. I mean, this was probably 20 years ago. So like, it started with, he just sort of touched her on the arm. He's just a little bit over familiar, really. Yeah. And then it's like, he gave her a hug. He touched her bum, all this sort of stuff that didn't happen.
Get your hands off our queen.
So I just wonder with Lamine Yamal, he daps up the king, and in 10 years' time, it's going to be like, he chest bumped him, or
nutted him,
or like slapped him round the head or whatever.
Yeah. How would you disrespect a king? I'd probably just go for the handshake, hair comb. When you go for the handshake, you go, oh, too slow. I'm combing my hair now. I'm always combing my hair.
It was funny actually. Both my eldest son and my youngest godson, who are more or less the same age, they're both 13. They live like 250 miles apart now, but within a day of each other, I think it was the week before last, they both completely independently of each other, when I was letting them go out of a door, held the door open for me, and went, ladies first. Yes,
you got served. And Age before beauty. Hit them back with the age before beauty. Or just pick them up and throw them in a bin, because you need to take control of your homestead, Andy. You should not be disrespected on your own turf. Outrageous.
They're too big nowadays. It's not possible.
Too long.